Yeah.
Conditional use, what's going to be for this stuff? Does that have to be in the beginning? Go back, because sometimes it'll show up here.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Emmaus Borough Council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll have personal appeals part 1. If you have a personal appeal, please approach the podium and sign in, state your name, and you have 5 minutes for your appeal. All right, hearing none. Community minute. Does anybody have anything to bring forward for a community minute?
I do, since our next meeting is going to be a little off here. On Monday, we have the Emmaus Veterans Association Memorial Day Parade from 9 to 11. And then Sunday, June 2nd, is the Summer Concert Series 40th Anniversary Celebration Kickoff. And we also, on Saturday, Saturday the 1st is the community yard sale also. So a few things going on the upcoming weekends and holiday.
And I'll add to the Memorial Day Parade that if it's rained out, the ceremony will be at the high school auditorium. So,
And 2 other things, that Sunday as well, the Emmaus Veterans Committee has their color guard at the cemeteries with the taps and rifle salute. So they start at Calvary, and there is a list that we have had on, we will put on the Facebook page, as well as the afternoon, 1 p.m. at the Emmaus Commemorative Gardens Foundation. That starts at 1 p.m. I believe we have 18 bricks to go into the garden, and if everyone can be there, that would be really great. It's a beautiful ceremony. And that's
Thank
all.
you.
And then, I got one more. Yep. As everyone knows, the Emmaus Arts Commission kicked off the fire hydrant painting this weekend, and they received some excellent press. The artists are still trying to finish up a few of the hydrants, but I think it was a very successful event. We got a lot of local coverage and a lot of municipalities that were, congratulating us on the project, and they thought it was a great idea. So the one question I have, though, is Shane, they were asking, because they're in a meeting now, about the grant. When is the deadline on that?
That was the chamber grant, right?
Yeah.
Middle of June.
Middle of June. Okay. All right. Thank you.
That was for, or are you talking about for the application for next year?
No, just to
The
finish
closeout
out
for
this
this year.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, middle of June.
Middle of June, they got to close
Yeah, we really
out.
need to probably get that closed out sooner than later, though.
Okay. I'll inform.
All we really need is the invoice from Buss.
Okay. That's it. And then we
That's-
get to put it against the grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially, that's all we're really looking for is the invoice.
Okay. Great. All right. I'll tell them that.
And since everything went through Buss,
Yeah.
I can take care of the rest with the priming and the labor of the guys to get everything ready.
Okay. Yeah. And she wanted to know when she could start the next round. And
So that's going on right now.
yeah.
So she needs to contact the chamber right away.
Right.
Because I think that process is like due within weeks.
For the grant and
It's
stuff.
Yeah,
the first week of June.
Yeah, so,
Okay. All right. I'll have her do that. I'll send her an email then.
all right.
All right. Thank you.
Just want to mention, when I came to the meeting tonight, I actually saw somebody working on the hydrant. So that was neat to see. Anybody else have a community minute? I just want to mention also that the 2009 committee had a presentation at the St. John's Lutheran Church on Wednesday. And I attended it. It was very nice, and a lot of memories and photos there from 10 years ago, if you can believe that. And some of us looked a little younger then. So,
Look at me!
trust me, it was all of us. It was all of us. I
had a
had a
green
little more
beard.
hair then.
I had a full beard.
May not
Yes,
have
you
been.
did. And just a reminder, the election's tomorrow, so I wish all the candidates best of luck. So, everybody get out and vote. All right. reading, or no special presentations, reading of the minutes. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the May 6th, 2019 council meeting minutes? Councilman Dufresne, seconded by Councilwoman McManaman. Any questions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. Decisions on bids. We have janitorial services. There's a request, if you read the memorandum that came with it, there's a request to table it. We only have 1 bid, and at the request of Shane, he's asking for some more time. He has some ideas, and he just needs to gather some more information before he can present it to a committee. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to table. Councilwoman Baumgartner, seconded by Councilman Dufresne. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. Well, I think this is the first time I've ever seen this since I've been on council, and that's 22 years. There's no communications. I don't think I have ever seen that. Have you ever seen that?
No.
You're here
No, this is the
you're
first.
here as long as I am. Yeah. So, no communications. Borough engineers report, no borough engineers report. Solicitors report.
Progress.
Thank you. Unfinished business, part 1. We have ordinance 1190, an ordinance amending chapter 15, section 407, establishing 1 handicap parking space on Sunday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on the south side of Main Street in front of 332 Main Street. We had our first reading May 6th, and this is our second reading. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1190? Councilman Anders, seconded by Councilwoman McManaman. Any questions or discussion on the ordinance?
Just to clarify, the business that it's located in front of, they're okay with
Correct.
that? Okay. That's all I wanted to make sure.
Roll call vote. Councilwoman McManaman.
Aye.
Councilman Schubsta.
Aye.
Councilman Anders.
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner.
Aye.
Councilman Dufresne.
Aye.
Councilman Hart.
Aye.
Councilman Lamberg. Aye. There are 7 ayes. There's no new business, unfinished business, part 2, or items not on the agenda. Does anybody have anything to bring forward there? Hearing none. Mayor's report.
Thank you. Again, in your iPads, I have 2 proclamations to read this evening. It seems all I ever do anymore is read a proclamation. This is for Emergency Medical Services Week. Proclamation 2019-454, Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services are a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of emergency physicians, emergency nurses, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, first responders, educators, administrators, and others. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it's appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services provided by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, I, Leanne Gilbert, Mayor of the Borough of UMass, Pennsylvania, proclaim that the week of May 19th through May 25th, 2019, be known as Emergency Medical Services Week, with the theme EMS Strong, Beyond the Call. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Done this 20th day of May 2019 in the Borough of UMass, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania. And we have Proclamation 2019-454, National Public Works Week. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to the sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and the well-being of people of UMass Borough. And whereas these infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings and other structures and facilities, essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, children in UMass Borough to gain knowledge of and to maintain progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. Now, therefore, I, Leanne Gilbert, Mayor of the Borough of UMass, Pennsylvania, proclaim that the week of May 19th through May 25th, 2019, be known as National Public Works Week, with the theme, It Starts Here. I call upon all citizens, business owners, and visitors to the community to recognize the substantial contributions of the Public Works Department in making a great community for all. Done this 20th day of May, 2019, in the Borough of UMass, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania. And after that, I report progress.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All right, committee reports. Public Works Committee, Chairman Anders.
I have nothing for official action. We will meet next on June 12th at 4 p.m. I'll report progress.
Thank you. Health, Sanitation, and Codes Committee, Chairman Shipsta.
All right, I have to borrow his, mine's acting up, I can't get anything to load. We have two things, right, Shane? The first one is a resolution, 2019-23, a conditional approval of 229 Minor Street subdivision on your desks. I'm sorry, 329, yep. On your desks, Shane, if you can enlighten us a little bit of what we're looking at.
I would love to, but I'll give that one to your solicitor instead.
Yeah, passing the buck.
Okay. This is actually pretty routine. It is a resolution for plan revision for new land development. And what happens is when a new land development comes in, every time you approve a new land development, you're actually approving a revision to your sewage facilities plan, which is called your Act 537 plan. So this particular subdivision, it's a two-lot subdivision. One lot is already improved with a dwelling, so you're adding one new sewer connection. And what happens is as part of the overall planning process, you have to basically send up, it's the developer's obligation to submit for approval a resolution that says that you are amending your sewage facilities plan for the borough to include this new connection. So this is a resolution essentially approving that. If you look at the language, it notes that it's the Randall Hoffman subdivision for 329 Minor Street, and what you're approving is a new sewer tap-in. So the new house will be proposed to use the existing sanitary sewer that's out in the street, and this is a resolution to approve that. I believe that there are no sewage issues. Hanover did not point out any sewage issues that were involved with this plan. So this is really a routine resolution, and it allows the planning module to go up to PADEP for approval, and then for the ultimate connection of a new home to the sewer system at the appropriate time. The developer would pay a tapping fee in accordance with borough ordinances to use the sewer, and then it would go online once it's built, and they would pay the sewer fees that everybody else pays in accordance with your ordinances. So that's all this is. It's a very routine matter.
And I can see on the map where the tapping is, right? So that's where,
Yes.
where they're going to tap into the lines. And the lines are pretty close.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Jeff.
All right. Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-23, conditional approval of 329 Minor Street subdivision.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilman Anders? Questions or discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
All right, what's our second thing? Second thing we have is a resolution 2019-24, conditional approval of the Emmaus Commerce Center at 840 Broad Street. And I'm just going to open a resolution. So it is a light industrial building, and it is a development plan for an Emmaus Commerce Center. And Shane, any more information that I need to know? We've seen this before.
So this has been going on for over a year and a half.
Yep.
This in particular is the building where they dug into the side of the hill and had some issues, and have since been in the planning stages for quite some time. had been hung up in the planning process for stormwater, and trying to figure out how they were going to manage their stormwater. And if you read the planning commission minutes, you know, I'm not the engineer, but the engineer has reviewed it, has given his blessing, saying that their new stormwater calculations and the way they're going to manage stormwater works. But that has been the, I would say that's what's really drug this process out for many more months than
they
what
tried to do it,
what it
if I
normally
remember
would
right.
be. Well, the problem is they're up on a hill,
Yep.
and trying to manage the stormwater where they were going to build was definitely a challenge.
It was the slope, wasn't it?
It was the slope,
Yep.
and trying to figure that out as to how they were going to put a building up there and not flood out their neighbor or overflow, the
Their own
sewage
building,
facilities that were
wasn't it,
there,
below it?
or their own building.
Yep.
And so they came up with a spray irrigation plan that
Okay.
wasn't working, and now apparently the new calculations and new method that they're proposing per our engineer works. So now, because it works and it fits the calculations, and again, I'm not the engineer, so I don't know how they fit the
I
calculations.
don't either.
But that relieves them from setback requirements that they were going to need to deal with, and it relieves them from some of the other things. So,
Okay.
and what had happened the other day, the planning commission didn't have a quorum until 20 minutes into the meeting, so we did not discuss the matter. Instead, they deferred it over to council
Okay.
for council discussion.
And Jim's been, he's been on
But
this
Jim-
for the
Jim
beginning.
has dealt with the front end of it.
Yep.
And then the zoning piece of it, but the planning module and the calculations and all that is really, that's up
That's
to
all-
the engineers.
Yep.
That's all stuff that's way above my pay grade, and the poor guy that wants to put the building up, it's above his pay grade too. Like, it really comes down to their engineer and our engineer trying to figure out
How they're gonna make
how
this
it's gonna work.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
and with that said, I'll give it to your solicitor from there, because I'm still trying to figure out how
It all worked out,
It all
yeah,
worked
it's
out.
been a while.
Okay, sure. So what we have tonight is we have a resolution to conditionally approve the preliminary final land development plan of Emmaus Commerce Center. And as Shane indicated, this is and Jeff indicated, it's a light industrial warehouse building. The condition by Jim is that whatever use it turns out to be, the condition is it has to comply with the zoning ordinance. So that's the only zoning comment. The bulk of the comments, and they are actually, if you look at the resolution, they are relatively few comments. This plan has been before the Planning Commission for, as Shane indicated, about a year and a half. And gradually, the plan conditions have been whittled down. I would say the most difficult condition, as Shane indicated, was this spray irrigation because of the slope and where it was being sprayed, which would have been upgrade, I guess, if I understand correctly, of the building that's going to be built. And had the rate of spray or the amount of spray, whatever it is, had it reached a certain level, it would have been considered a stormwater facility, a stormwater BMP as we call it. However, the actual rate was low enough that it wasn't considered a stormwater BMP. Had it been a stormwater BMP, there would have been a need for a variance from the zoning hearing board to allow it. Since it didn't meet the requirements, it didn't rise to the level of requirements for a BMP, the zoning hearing board variance wasn't necessary. Those were calculations that had to be done in the planning process. As I read the Hanover Engineering Review Letter, and I think it is fairly clear, Hanover agrees with the calculations that were provided by the developer's engineer, which is Liberty.
Hanover's here, right?
Yes, and Hanover's here to explain details, assuming you want to get into that. The other conditions are really standard conditions that we normally have in a land development plan. And what we did was we moved it through on Thursday night when we did not have a quorum, and it didn't look like we were going to have a quorum because we were coming up against the review deadline, which I think expires June 30. So, I'm sorry, May. it expires early enough that we wouldn't have been able to have another planning commission meeting followed by a council meeting and still meet our deadlines under the law. So we felt it best to move it along, given the fact that the review letters at that point honestly did not suggest any further reason for review by the planning commission. The waivers are pretty simple. They're typical waivers that we grant. I think the primary waiver dealt with the cartway width of the street, which this property fronts on, which is one that we waive all the time because we don't make somebody add a foot to the cartway and it becomes the only property along the street with a wider cartway. So that was pretty standard. And I think the other waiver, and unfortunately my Granicus isn't working, so I can't tell you exactly what the other waiver was.
It's a network issue.
Oh.
But I think but in any event, I think the other waiver, quite honestly, was a pretty standard waiver too. To have a preliminary final plan instead of a preliminary plan followed by a final plan, you roll the preliminary final into one.
Councilman Schubster, would you like to read the resolution then? Just the header.
Yep. Let's see. Borough Council, Lehigh County Resolution 2019-24, a resolution conditionally approving the preliminary/land final land development plan for Emmaus Community Center, proposed warehouse/light industrial building.
And you place that in a form
Yeah,
of
I'll
motion?
place that in a
All right,
form
we
of
have a
motion.
motion to approve Resolution 2019-24. Is there a second?
This is all conditional.
Second.
Councilman Anders, questions or discussion?
Yeah, I've talked to Shane too about this. I personally would like to table this, and I understand we're going up against a time constraint, but to me, that's the least of our issues. It's been 2 years that this is done. Our planning commission didn't get the final look. They're the experts, not me, on it. I would feel more comfortable. Everything we deal with here is stormwater, stormwater, stormwater. I just feel like this is being rushed through at the end because we need to meet a deadline. We didn't have a quorum. If they would have actually referred it to us, I would feel a little bit more comfortable. I think there's no harm in tabling this. It
You would,
just delays it.
Chris, you would need a time extension from the developer to do that. If you don't get a time extension and you don't act, it's a deemed approval.
Then I would say we deny it, and
Okay, but if you're going to deny it, we need a basis to deny it. And I
it's
can,
rushed through.
I don't,
Our planning commission didn't get the final say.
they,
We saw Shane's comments in the back.
Well, we have a motion on the floor, so.
okay. I'm just pointing out, I'll just point out two things in it. Number one, if you want to deny it, you need a reason. There is nothing that I can see in the engineer's letter or Jim Farnsworth's review letter that supports a denial. The fact that our planning commission didn't have initially a quorum that night is not the developer's fault.
No, I think the problem though, Tom, is for a year and a half, we've been saying this doesn't work, and like I said in my notes, magically, it seems, now it works.
Barely.
And I don't understand, and if I don't understand, I've been dealing with this for a year and a half. If I don't understand how it works, then you certainly, the 7 of you, can't possibly understand, having read this only 4 days ago, you can't possibly understand how this works.
Okay.
That's what my
No,
concern
I understand that, and all I'm saying is, and I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong. I'm just telling you what the law is.
But our engineers here that maybe can explain
Sure, I
how it
have,
works.
sure, I have no,
I mean, maybe that'll at least ease some of
I have a
the concern.
question about the spray irrigation
Well, I want to ask
system.
if it's appropriate in the middle of a motion to bring somebody out from the public to speak.
well, I think our engineer is here. I think it's relevant to the motion, so I think that you can have
Because
your
we're in the
engineer as
middle
your
of a motion,
consultant.
and that's
But
all
he's
right.
here-
But he's your
he's here
consultant, though.
representing us.
He is our consultant, so
Right.
I would have no objection to having him answer
All right,
questions.
you can approach. Just state your name and for the record then.
Thank you. I'm Andy Woods, representing Hanover Engineering. So, Mr. Dinkelacker had a very good description of what was happening with the stormwater. At a ½ inch per day is the cutoff for what the Conservation District deems what a spray irrigation is. So it's not a spray irrigation once it's less than ½ inch per day. And they've shown us calculations that they don't need, it's gonna be less than ½ inch per day. Now, to Chris, to hit you with your comment about it being rushed, the developer's given, I don't know how many times, Shane, 3, 4 extensions already. So saying it's rushed through really isn't, it's not rushed, it's been through the planning commission many times. So, and they've addressed our comments regarding the stormwater BMP. So, and as Mr. Dinkelacker pointed out, that's what the accepted standard, industry standard is half-inch per day. It's just not what we deem it is, and it's not in the ordinance, so we can't point to anything in the ordinance, but it's what the Conservation District and DEP deem what a spray irrigation is and what the cutoff is. So previously to their last calculation, they were over an inch, half-inch per day. But they've changed their calculations, and that spray irrigation is not deemed a spray irrigation anymore. It's not a stormwater BMP, and it doesn't fall under that ordinance.
But change your calculation of what? I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong. I can make a number, whatever I want to make it. What happens if we approve this and it comes in at 0.75 per day? Do they
Then they're
leave everything out?
not, then they're not following what they sealed. If you want to put a condition on that measures it afterwards, I mean, they've changed some of the spacing on where they're spraying. They've adjusted some of those things, they've spread it out, and they've adjusted how they're gonna spray it.
I think that's some of my concerns is, I mean, I get a half-inch a day is maybe an average, but has anybody seen the storms we've had recently and the amount of rain? I mean, where's that water gonna go? What is it gonna do to possibly the other buildings? I don't know if we really can have a visual of that. I mean,
We've had that
what is
concern all along also, Roy, and they've, you know, there's nothing we can point to in the ordinance that could stop what they're doing. We've had concerns, we've been through numerous times through these revisions. It's been over a year and a half we've been going through all these items.
But wouldn't the specialist be that commission? Wouldn't they be the specialist who absolutely positively should pass it, not?
I think, Roy, that the planning commission typically accepts accepts the representations or accepts the work of the borough engineer. I don't think that, there might be, for example, Mike as an engineer might have some knowledge and experience of his own, but if the borough engineer is saying it works, it's kind of hard for the planning commission to say, no, it doesn't. That's the limitations of what we work in include the application of, all of the ordinances of the borough and all of the state laws and regulations, which is what Andy's referring to. So if they can come in and show Andy to his satisfaction and Hanover's satisfaction that they meet these requirements, it's the planning commission's obligation to move it through. I think what we would find is we would end up having the same conversation in front of the planning commission that we're having right now, with Andy standing there saying, based upon what they've given us, it works. Now, let's say that down the road, it doesn't work. They have what is called, and what gets recorded at the courthouse, what's called a post-construction stormwater management plan. And that is what their NPDES permit is tied into, that plan. If there's a problem and the plan is not working, then they're in violation of the Pennsylvania laws that relate to how their stormwater management is applied. Basically, they are bound by the law and they are bound by their plan once that plan is approved and recorded. And what happens here is it goes on to the Lehigh County Conservation District, that is DEP's representative, to review and to approve that plan, and also to look at the calculations that Andy has looked at. Am I correct in that regard, Andy?
Yes.
So this has a whole nother layer, but under the law, it is fairly clear that an outside agency, being an entity that's not connected to the borough, an outside agency approval is a legitimate condition of plan approval. So one of the conditions of this plan approval is that they get their NPDES permit, which means that DEP, through LCCD, approves this plan and approves the calculations that underlie this plan.
So my question is, do they have to meet those requirements at every level then?
Yes, they do.
Okay, all right.
I'll point out further, they've met the LVPC, So their last agency for stormwater to meet is the PADEP for the NPDES
Yeah.
permit.
So the question I have is, all right, so if for some instance, the building process, would that change any of it?
They have to do they have to do once they get the approval,
Yep.
they have to build it according to the plan. And they have to do
Exactly.
it- they have to
Okay,
do
so
an
it won't
as-built.
shift any of that around.
Like, they have to do an as-built, they have to show us everything is built according to that plan.
Okay.
Chris?
Okay, so you said in the beginning that we could put a condition on about a measurement afterwards or something, did you not?
You
Or
can.
is that covered by
Well,
what they
that's up to
solicited?
I
Mr.
think that-
Dinkelhocker.
I was gonna ask
I
that
would
question.
say
Is that
Sure.
covered in the DEP?
What's gonna happen is this is going to go on to DEP for, in other words, they will not get the approval to move forward. They need an NPDES permit, which is a federal permit. It's administered by the state of Pennsylvania. The Lehigh County Conservation District is the representative of the state of Pennsylvania in doing this. So they have to have that permit, and as Andy said, they have to build in accordance with that. If down the line there's a reason to believe it's not working, then they would be in violation of their permit, because it's the permit that allows them to proceed to do this. And Andy, I forget, the permit is not, am I correct, the permit is not released until LCCD is satisfied that everything's been built and everything works in accordance with the permit?
Yes, there's a notice of termination, they can't terminate it until
Yeah.
all the as-bills are complete, and they actually do some testing and make sure they're all that spray irrigation is in place according to that plan.
Testing after the fact, so
Yep.
once I can build it however I want, my calculations might be wrong.
Well, you can't build it however you want, you
Well,
gotta
I
build
can,
it
I
according to that
calculate, I
plan.
can be the best mathematician in the world and I can make mistakes on calculations, it happens.
Yes,
If there's a mistake in the calculation, it can be fixed by after the fact, them doing this. It
it's,
just concerned me that for 2 years it couldn't work and now all of a sudden it works.
I don't know that it's an all of a sudden it works.
yeah, it's not, they were on the margin the whole time. They were on that margin the
So
whole
you're
time.
really close, so we're playing
Yeah,
a
we're
fine
close.
line here.
Yes, we
So
are
we're
close.
playing a fine line.
But
So any small error would put it over.
you are correct,
But then they'd be in violation.
right.
If there's
How do
an
we
after-the-fact
measure that,
measurement.
though?
You're right, that's what I'm saying.
How do we measure if they're over? How do you figure that out?
It's with a pump, and they have a schedule on the pump.
Okay.
And they have an area where they spray over, they have an area, so there's a calculation.
And one of our conditions is that the pump only operate at certain periods of time. So I think originally the condition was that the pump would operate at closer individuals, and I think
Correct.
Hanover has recommended, and we've included as a condition, that the pump operate at wider individuals. So, I mean, look, we've had tremendous amounts of rain. Stormwater plans that are perfect have problems. We are stuck, unfortunately, with the regulations, and we have to abide by the regulations as a municipality just as much as the developer has to abide by them. So I'm not so sure, in all honesty, if we sent this back to the Planning Commission, what we would do. Hanover has already approved the calculations. I'm not saying Hanover is wrong in doing so, but they're approved.
So my last comment will be, I'm gonna vote no for this unless we table it. To me, the developer and Emmaus should work together for 2 to 3 weeks here. They should give us one more extension. If the planning commission says move it forward and they have enough, I have no problem. If they're the experts, I'm not. I just wish we could work together and just make sure.
Well, is Mr. Wrights here tonight? Do you want to grant one more extension?
Can I?
No, I'm sorry, okay, I misspoke.
Yeah.
I think if
I
we're gonna.
want to move on here. I didn't speak yet. Okay, so you had said that it can be calculated if they're over or not. What I want to know is those calculations, are they recorded on a regular basis?
What do you mean recorded?
So he said, how do you know if you're over or not? And you said there's, you said that there's calculations.
Correct.
All right. So I'm assuming that there's measurements that they're able to keep track of that. Yes? No?
Keep track on the as-built, and after the fact?
Of the amount.
That it's working like it's designed to work after the fact.
All I can check is what is expected and then check the calculations,
All right. So this goes back to how do you enforce it?
okay? Again, like Mr. Dinkelhocker said, there's a permit, that NPDS permit requires certain, and it's on their plan, and the Lehigh County Conservation District will have it on their plan.
He may be able to answer.
Well, they're gonna have to maintain that system and do maintenance on it every so often. Now, is there testing on how they're spraying? I'm not sure, I haven't seen the final plan as far as the stormwater BMP goes.
So Shane just pointed out to me that their engineer is here, and I'd like to hear from him.
Okay?
Ask him his name.
And can you state your name and where you're from for the record, please?
Mike Minervini, Liberty Engineering. To answer, several of the questions. The pump actually has a recorder, so it's recorded and kept as a record of how much water.
So do you record that on a regular basis, like a daily basis, or?
I guess it's continuous. It's not just daily. It's as the pumps turn on, that information is recorded. So the conservation district, the borough, can go back and look and see,
Okay.
how much did you spray last month?
So there is a record of it?
There is a record.
Okay.
The electronics keep a record of how much was sprayed. And as far as to answer the question of how all of a sudden it was, I don't know if a year and a half is all of a sudden, but we took the area between the mound, the slope, which was paved. We took the pavement out, we're planting grass. That increased the area that we're spraying. It also lowered the impervious of the lot itself to add more grass area. So that's how we managed to get it to work, by actually taking out pavement and adding grass to the site.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's any other questions.
The other thing I would add for council's benefit is there will be an improvements agreement in which will secure all of the improvements that need to be made, including the stormwater improvements. So the developer needs to build the improvements in accordance with the plan. But one of the other documents that we get is we have an agreement which is pursuant to Pennsylvania Stormwater Management Act that allows the borough, after the fact, essentially to come onto the property and to inspect the facilities and to determine what is going on. It's called a right of entry. So we have an Act 167, which is your Stormwater Act. We have that agreement. Again, I don't have the resolution in front of me, but I think one of the conditions is that there be a stormwater declaration. And essentially what it does is it allows the borough to come onto the property and to make sure that it's being done correctly. So it would probably include, I would assume, and then I can make sure that even that it does, to review whatever records are generated by these pumps if we want to. I would assume that, and I would ask Mr.
Minervini.
Mr. Minervini or Andy, can you go out and make a visual inspection under our stormwater declaration and determine that there's a problem? I would assume you probably can. In other words, if you're oversaturating the ground, it's probably something that to an engineer is something that's visible. So understand that we have an agreement that covers us post-construction.
Okay.
And that allows us to go on and inspect.
All right. So I'm just going to say that we pay our borough engineer a lot of money to represent us, and he's saying that everything they have done is correct. We have a solicitor that we pay a lot of money to who is saying that we cannot deny this unless we give a reason. And at this point, if our borough engineer is saying that they're doing everything correctly, we have no reason to disprove it. Not approve it, I should say. So I'm going to be supporting this. I understand the concerns. I'm also happy to hear that there are plans that can follow up on if they're not doing things correctly. So with that being said, does anybody else have any other comments?
I would just like to say that,
Raise your hand next time, please.
sorry.
Councilman Anders.
As far as, I'm not enthused with it, but hearing what you just said, and which is true, our engineer, our solicitor, I think we don't have much choice on this and/or by law, so I'll support it reluctantly, but I will vote yes for it.
Anybody else? Councilman Dufresne.
are we going to follow up and do measurements after the fact?
I'm sorry, Chris?
Are we going to follow up after the fact?
Well, what will happen is during the construction phase, Hanover will be out there to make sure that it's constructed appropriately. They will have observers, either Hanover or Ott. I'm not sure who's going to do that. In terms of afterwards, we have the right to go in. Public Works could go in. Hanover could go in as your engineer with respect to, I think, is Hanover doing stormwater, or is that Ott, Shane? Okay, so Ott can go in. The agreement is drafted with a right of entry to go in and look, so there's no reason why it can't be done, and it could be done on a regular basis, given the concerns. Could look at a schedule, because I really, Andy, if it's not working, is that something visually that could probably be seen by an experienced stormwater?
If it's extremely not working, yes, it'll be visible. If it's just over a half an inch, you will not be able to see that.
Okay.
Councilman Hart, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, with all due respect, Mr. President, your comment about there is no reason for us not to because of what you heard is a personal opinion.
No, it's the opinion of the solicitor.
Well, but you expressed it as we don't have an option as a result of that. I would suggest that we'll reserve our rights to make a decision one way or another.
Of course.
If we feel that there's a reason not to do it.
That's why we have a vote, of course.
I would simply caution you, based on what your solicitor and engineer have said, if this is denied,
We're going to
be
get a
prepared
lawsuit.
to deal with it in the court system.
Yeah, we're going to get sued.
From what those two have said, I tend to think that what they're telling us is that they have met all requirements to do this project, and we don't have a legal basis at this point to say no. I mean, that's simple eighth grade terms. Am I correct when I ask that?
Based upon the review letters that we have at this point, that's my opinion, yes.
And if we denied this today, what would the legal recourse be?
Well, if we denied it, we would first of all have to state a reason for denial. Reasons for denial usually have to be ordinance-based, or they have to be based on maybe a lack of good faith in pursuing the land development process. I don't see that here. The applicant would have the right to appeal the decision to the Court of Common Pleas. I would have to draft a resolution denying. Tonight, the resolution is for a conditional approval because I based it on the engineering review letters and the zoning officer's review memo. We would have to modify it to a resolution to deny, which I can do, but then the developer has a right to appeal to the Court of Common Pleas in 30 days. The other option the developer has is to give a time extension and allow this to go back to the Planning Commission. But as I've said, I don't expect the conversation there to be any different than the conversation we just heard.
All right, any other comments? All right, we have Resolution 2019-24 with a motion and a second. Discussion is over. I ask that when you do your voice vote to raise your hand also because I expect this to be a mixed vote. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
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 Councilman Dufresne and Councilman Hart are opposed. It is approved 5-2. Good discussion, good questions, good debate. Chairman
Back to
Shipsta?
me again? Oh, my gosh.
I'm sorry, just one thing. For both of those resolutions, that requires a signature of all council members.
So-
Even if you voted no, it still requires your signature.
All right. Well, that was fun. I have nothing else. Next meeting is scheduled for May 29th at 4:30 in council chambers. Progress.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Committee, Chairwoman Baumgartner.
There are 3 items for official action. The first you'll see there is Dana Davies would like to be appointed to Recreation and Entertainment Commission. We interviewed her and voted to recommend her to council. So I'll put that in the form of a motion to appoint Dana Davies for a term expiring June 7th, 2021.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilwoman McManaman. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
She'll be a great addition. She has some great background there. You'll see in her application. We have, the Emmaus Garden Club has done a lot to preserve the gardens in our public spaces, and they are asking just to have signs placed that they will take responsibility for all costs, and they just want to place them in these locations. And so we recommended to council for approving that request.
need a vote?
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilman Anders? Any questions on it?
Can we just
They're
clarify?
they're very small signs, 7
Yeah.
inches
They
by
are very
9.
small.
7 by 9.
I mean,
And
that's
it's
that's
only
smaller
like,
than a sheet of paper.
Yeah, 7 by 9, I believe.
Yeah, that is very small.
and it's only like 4 public spaces, the
Yeah.
Memorial Triangle, the
Mhm.
Triangle Park, and the 2 Gateway?
Yeah, it's,
Which one is that? The other one's at Weiss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other gate, yes.
And they
think
do a
it's-
fabulous job. They really do.
They do.
I mean, they put a lot of time and effort into it, and they make it look, beautiful for anyone coming in town.
and yeah, we definitely applaud what they do, and so any way to recognize them, I think, is a great idea on our part, certainly.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There's 7 ayes.
And the last item is for the Farewell to Summer event slated for September 21st, 2019. There initially was a request to have parking restricted, what was it, on Liberty? What street was it?
Railroad.
Railroad,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you. And there were some concerns about that, and so the discussion during that meeting was to no longer restrict that street, but just to restrict the section of Main Street where the triangle is what we typically close off when there's an event at the triangle. So we recommend to council to approve the restriction on Main Street for the Farewell to Summer event, September 21st, 2019.
This is a motion by Councilwoman Baumgartner. Is there a second?
Just
Is there a second?
It is a second.
Councilman Anders? Now you can.
Okay. Did you say in between 3rd and 4th Streets, just to add that to the
Yeah, the
amendment?
section of Main Street.
I was just reading what it said in there.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't-
Any other discussion?
I guess one thing we did get clarified, Ms. Baumgartner, and I know Mrs. McManaman had said something to me earlier today, was we're not sure that the organization spoke with the businesses that they are going to be affecting. And so, I'm not sure if that's something that we might want to wait on, or if we feel okay about it. I mean, we're talking about what, 10, 12 parking spots? So it's not like it's affecting that much, but, we just went through this.
Yep.
So, I'm not sure if we want to wait for them to give us an answer on that, or how we want to proceed with that. I mean, the event's in September. It's not like
Right.
we have to.
And actually, now that you bring that up, I was just recalling, there was also concern about their rain date, because their rain date was scheduled.
So I received an email
Okay.
this afternoon about that. I think we'd be okay with their rain date. They just wouldn't have it on the triangle. They're looking at having it on some other businesses' properties is what they would do on the rain date.
Oh.
So while the farmer's market would be going on, Farewell to Summer would be on, some of the other business properties at the same time, which still would probably be a pretty cool event.
Okay.
So
But
I
that,
think
but
we
that
probably.
wouldn't require the same parking restrictions then? Would it require any
Yeah, I think their goal would be to have the same parking restrictions.
for that?
Yeah, they still want to do the food trucks.
Okay.
So your meeting minutes stress that they want to try to encourage businesses to be open so that they can benefit from this. So I don't think the parking issue would be an issue. If they want to take advantage of this, they should take advantage of this. So I don't understand how it would hurt them. If anything, it would help them if there's more people coming into town that if they stay open, they theoretically would get customers.
Well, and Mr. Lindberg, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. But we just went through you didn't tell me, your answer wasn't good enough.
Well, I
Doesn't matter if I
understand the
don't look at it.
communication part, and I agree with that, they should be notified, but like you said, it's September, they should be notified, hopefully soon. So, anyhow, I just wanted to say that they're gonna benefit from this.
Right, so this, just to clarify, sorry, I misspoke earlier, but it'll restrict parking on the south side of Main Street between 3rd and 4th. So they're looking for food trucks to be lined up on that side of the street.
Right.
So.
All right, any other questions or comments?
If I may make a comment, I did try to clarify because the comment of a food truck in front of a food restaurant
Right.
is uncomfortable to me, especially now with all of things happening with the farmer's market. So I would like to be assured that I was already told that it wasn't in the artery, and as you had really mentioned and just corrected. So as long as it's not in front of Swade with a food truck or other, and if it's a designated amount of spaces, I think we're fine. But to make the point, I did ask
Do you know if they spoke
Ms.
with
Laura
Swati?
to comment to the businesses sooner than later.
Okay. So is there a possibility to maybe make a condition on them checking with those?
Well, is there anything preventing the food business that's already located there from selling stuff in front of their business? Like setting up a table to sell
They have
stuff?
to get permission through the health.
But they're able to do that.
But they could,
I mean, they know that
sure.
so they could sell stuff from a table or something from in front of their own business.
The other thing that I just want you to know about the food truck industry is there was a case that just came down about how the food truck industry is regulated and that our local health inspector is no longer going to be able to regulate them. And that is it's a statewide type of thing. So I'll have more information. Maybe Mr. Hard, I saw you shaking your head, so maybe you read a little bit
We
on
discussed this at the health board the other evening. There's a bill that got through the House concerning, look at it as one inspection, one licensing, and you're done. And you're good for the whole state. Ironically, it does permit our health officer from inspecting, but without any teeth. So there's a lot of lobbying going on between the industry and Harrisburg to incorporate something that would allow that inspection to have some teeth to it. Understood, the service industry wanting only to pay one fee, I get that, but I'm not sure I'm going to feel good about having some county out in western PA inspect on our behalf and us not having a say.
So just kind of a little wrinkle that.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I think that bill is still in committee.
It's not.
No, it got out of the
Oh,
House.
did it get out of the House?
Got out of the House.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's
All right, so it's on its
moving
way.
fast.
Anybody else comments? I really do want to stress, I don't know who's in charge of communicating to making sure that the businesses know, because, it doesn't fall on them if they don't find out about it. It falls on us, and they're going to say that we didn't communicate to them. And I just want to make sure that that process happens, even though we're not responsible for letting them know.
But we are. So you're
All
saying.
right, well, I mean,
That was a total.
I mean,
That went in a
tradi-
circle.
I mean, traditionally, we as a borough haven't notified them. It's the organization having the event.
I will sit down with Miss Laura. As a matter of fact, I think I have a meeting scheduled with her later this week. I will sit down with her and I will make sure that's coordinated.
Okay, thank you. I feel more confident that will be taken care of then.
And I'll just comment that I did have concerns about some of the restaurants there, but then I also considered, at South Mountain, they have their regular food truck event, and there's food facilities in that area. And honestly, if I'm thinking about a food truck event, I mean, that's very different from what the restaurants offer. So if I'm wanting a restaurant experience, I'll still go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
And, so it's one day for a few hours, so I understand the concern, but
If,
I don't
if
think it's-
anyone's visited the South Mall on Thursdays when they have their food truck event, there's a draw. So
Yeah,
if
it
they
is.
have the right personnel, you're gonna bring some extra people to town, and they might check out some of the other things, give or take, or if they have stuff out, they could at least get some visual for it.
Next time they're looking for a restaurant, they might choose one that they saw while checking out the area. So who knows? But
Mr. Laborport, may I just comment, Ms. Laura just responded that she was planning to talk to the businesses after approval from Borough. We were planning to follow the typical road closure guidelines of giving them letters in person, informing them about the road closure as far as the parking lot, or parking spaces, and we are only putting food vendors along the south part of Main Street beyond the triangle, not in the triangle.
Okay.
That helps. Thank you.
All right, with all that being said, are we finished? Once again, another good debate, a lot of good points, good questions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
I didn't think that would be so, take such a long time, but that's the extent of our actions. So we have committee notes there. You can see what we're up to. Our next meeting is June 4th, 4:30. Progress.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Chairman Dufresne.
So you can see the memo and application for a full-time paramedic here. The committee interviewed the paramedic candidates, and we're making a motion to hire Jason Eckert as a full-time paramedic at a rate of $22.54 per hour, contingent upon a successful completion of a 6-month probationary period.
So motion by Councilman Dufresne, seconded by Councilman Hart. Questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
You can see the committee notes there. Our next meeting is June 12th at 9:15 a.m. Progress.
General Administration Committee, which is myself, and I don't know if this has ever happened. Nothing on the agenda. Progress. Next meeting is May 23rd here in council chambers at 9 a.m. Budget and Finance, Chairman Hart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Preceding the meeting, the council meeting earlier, the Budget and Finance Committee recommended Resolution 2019-22, which is the bill list and associated payroll expenses to be approved by council.
There's a
Additionally, the 5 top bills for the month were included in your packet. I do need a motion.
Motion by Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilman Dufresne to approve Resolution 2019-22. Any questions on the bill list? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. Progress?
Our next meeting is June 6th. I report progress.
Thank you. Community Relations Planning and Development Committee, Chairwoman McManaman.
Thank you. We have 3 items for official action. Resolution 2019-21, Pennsylvania Council on the Arts Grant Resolution. I'd like to make a motion to approve this, authorizing the formal submission of a Pennsylvania Council on the Arts Project Stream Grant application for the summer concert series.
There's a motion by Councilwoman McManaman. Is there a second? Councilwoman Baumgardner. Any questions on the grant application? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
The second item, as you remember, last month, we heard from Jean Clark about the proposed Oktoberfest event to be held September 28th. Our question as council was about the liquor license and the special occasion permit. Because it is a joint venture between the Main Street Partners and the Chamber, that entity will expense both permits, but Canals Homestead will hold the special occasion permit, and the Chamber and Main Street will hold the liquor license. Everything else was satisfactory, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the September 28th Oktoberfest event.
All right, there's a motion to approve the Oktoberfest. Is there a second? Councilman Anders? Any other questions on it? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. 7 ayes.
The third item is the release of the 2009 anniversary items, as well as the 1959 items on display at Town Hall. It's been 10 years since that 2009 anniversary celebration, and within that, the 1959 time capsule items from 1959 are housed downstairs. So as past chair and representative of the now dissolved 2009 committee, Dr. Mike Waddell has requested that we officially donate the items to the Historical Society. The framed items that are on the wall in the gallery will be kept as the borough's permanent collection. I'd like to make a motion the council release the items from 2009 and 1959 anniversary display to donate to the Emmaus Historical Society.
There's a motion by Councilwoman McManaman. Is there a second? Councilman Hart, any questions? I just wanted, it's tied into that, but it's not with regard to the actual artifacts, but the money for the 2059 celebration. 59, 69? 69, no, 59.
59.
59. I just hope that we can resolve that. Well, it's 2009, and then 50 years later, it's 59. All right, I see you doing the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. No, I
Okay.
just don't care what happens in 2059.
Oh, well, no, there was $5,000 put aside for this event.
Yeah, I haven't. I'll be honest with you. I haven't even looked at it. That's not even on my
Well, I'm just
radar,
saying
but
that when,
I will look.
when we get to the point where we get to that, I just want to, can we put in some kind of CD or something that it can grow for 50 years? So that's my only point. 50 years, it might, maybe you'll double it a couple times.
Yeah, Mayberg will still be there.
You'll still stay.
Now I've lost track. Is there a motion on the floor?
Somebody has to check it.
Oh, good one, Shipsta. I like that. I might actually be in the time capsule.
I think I am.
You gotta climb in.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
You'll notice the committee meeting notes, and I'd like you to take special attention to what Mr. Labenberg was just talking about with the monies, and Mr. Hart is going to be taking a look at that since he's on CRPD as well. Our next meeting is June 20th at 4:30. With nothing else to report, I report progress.
Thank you. Junior council members report. Councilman Jonas.
Thank you. The cast of Les Mis goes to the
Or
weddings
Houseman.
on Thursday, and Emmaus Chorale goes to Carnegie Hall next Tuesday. The Emmaus Art Show is May 30th at 6:30 p.m. Senior awards are on May 29th at 7 p.m. Evening of Theater is on May 31st at 7 p.m. Broadway night was on May 17th. Tomorrow is the final day of Keystone exams, the final day of Lane Dread's Keystones. And on May 15th, the school went into a limited lockout due to